don't we wait a little bit and make sure they can hear us and see us?
Yes, and make sure the video's not playing in the background with the music.
Yeah, why don't we do this one more time? All right, let's see. Yep, I think we're good on my end, I think.
Okay.
Yep, I think we're okay.
Okay, great.
So being that they
Welcome back, everybody.
heard nothing before,
Yeah.
we better start again. So we were talking about our mini getaways and how important
Mhm.
they are for mental health and for what we do, and how I like to go away just very short amount of days and enjoy that, so sort of get away and come back to it all
Right.
refreshed. We are here for the second part of the unseen part of your doctor visit. And
Mhm.
up until now, I think overall in my career and in looking at healthcare, I've always focused on the problem and
Mhm.
tried to solve it based on looking at the problem. But recently, and especially in my new job, I have focused on talking to people because I gravitate towards those that are still interested in healthcare after COVID and 2020 and sort of still have such an optimistic outlook. And I think people can feed off each other for ideas. And so to understand the problems in healthcare, you have to understand each perspective, just in general. Letty, I was talking about the fact that I like to understand the problem, not just from my side or my point of view, but also from others' point of view, especially when the solution is going to depend on their perspective.
Absolutely.
Before we dive into exactly what everyone does, though, we want to get to know them because it's not just any administrator that I invited to come on to the Doctora Diaries. It's not just any medical assistant that I invited in. They're here for a reason. They're here because I appreciate their perspective, and to understand it, I want to get to know them better because clearly that's who we need to attract into healthcare. So why don't we talk solution based on personalities and how we can work together in this difficult transition, I think, because healthcare already had problems and they're just sort of bigger now and more obvious.
Yeah, they've been exposed definitely by everything that's been happening.
Exactly. So we're going to start actually before we bring on our guests.
Mhm.
That we know each other really well and we always talk about solutions, but I don't know that everyone knows us and our backgrounds and where we come from. And so I think it's super important for us to begin by just exploring that aspect of what we do and who we are. What do you think, Liddy?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, being who we are makes us hopefully good at what we do. And I think that our past experiences, our upbringing, or whatever challenges we faced, whatever opportunities we had, definitely laid the groundwork for not only going into healthcare and becoming doctors, but makes us the kind of doctors we are and the kind of patients that, that we like to treat in terms of, the community that we like to serve, and how we go about doing that, and how, every doctor is unique. Everybody has their own experiences that make them unique and a right fit for certain patients or families. So I think that understanding who your doctor is and like getting to know them actually really, we have to get to know our patients, but I have some families that see me on a regular basis, and it's really nice when they ask me, oh, how was your trip to New York? Did you get to see your family? It's like, oh, you remember that. So all those things I think definitely contribute to how we do what we do, and why we chose to do it.
Absolutely. So I'm going to start actually by interviewing you. And
Okay.
we'll be taking turns on doing this. And of course, I know you, but I know you in a certain perspective. And so I want you to just explore on these questions as you want to. The first question is a loaded question. I always think it's a loaded question simply because we can answer it in so many ways. So I'm not going to direct you on how to answer it. I'm just going to, where are you from?
Where am I from? Okay. I'm from New York. My parents were both born in Puerto Rico, but they moved to New York City both when they were young kids. I think my mom was an infant and my dad was like 2 or 3. I may have that switched, but I think that's it. And so they grew up in New York, in the Bronx and Manhattan at different times. So I was raised Nuyorican, knowing my roots, knowing, salsa was always around, good Puerto Rican food, and Spanish was always spoken. Yeah, but so they speak English very well. It's primarily, it's like their one and a half language, not necessarily second, but not also first, because first is definitely their Spanish is their first language. So I grew up with it, but did grow up in a bilingual household for the most part. And so I'm from New York City, actually, on the Upper West Side is where I was born and raised, and my parents are still there.
What's a Nuyorican?
So a Nuyorican is basically that's who we are. Basically
us, yeah.
Yeah, that's who we are. So we're, some people say like transplants and stuff, but basically our families are from Puerto Rico, and the migration from Puerto Rico to New York City was very heavy around the 1950s or so, with the access to planes and industry and everything like that. So a lot of there are very large communities of Puerto Ricans, particularly throughout New York City, that have been established over those decades. And so Nuyorican is a term of us who have very strong roots to the island, but basically raised, in the city.
What was your first introduction to the fact that you had Puerto Rican roots? Like, when did, and it sounds like a silly question, but when did you know that you're Puerto Rican?
When did I know?
Yeah. When did you feel it,
So actually, this is weird because I have a memory. I think, in second grade, and a girlfriend of mine or friend of mine, we're walking, with our parents. Of course, we were in second grade in the street. And I remember I had told her I'd gone to Puerto Rico or something like that. And she's like, what does that mean? Where is that? And why do you keep going there? She didn't mean it in a judgy way. She was like, we have a summer home and we go there. But
yeah. Puerto Rico, you got to keep going back.
Yeah, so and she was like, what do you mean you're Puerto Rican? And so I kind of had to explain it the best way I knew how.
Okay.
Yeah.
What are 3 adjectives that you yourself would use to describe you today?
Okay, that's a toughie. I feel like I'm in a real interview. I think I would say 3 adjectives. Okay, I would say.
We can come back to this one if you want at the end.
Yeah, okay, let's come back to that one.
Yeah, I want to hear something. Did your parents, could they have predicted that you would become a physician? And if so, at what age? And if not, what they think that you would become?
Okay, so would they have predicted it? I'm going to go with no. Not at a young age. Later, when I was older, I think it was a little bit more obvious, or it seemed more appropriate. But when I was a child, no. That's because, as you know, I was a trained dancer. I studied at Ballet Hispanico in New York City, where Jennifer Lopez actually took a few classes. So that's the claim to fame. Huh?
Another Nuyorican, yes.
Yes, another Nuyorican. So I trained there throughout my entire childhood. So basically I started when I was like 7 at that school, and then I didn't stop until I aged out at 18 and still took classes well into my 20s. Oh. But yeah, I was there 5 to 6 days a week. And
yes, I remember. Where's Letty going after school? Ballet Hispanico. Yes.
Yeah, where is she? Oh, you know where she is.
Singing or dancing.
Yeah. And so I sang too, but yeah, so that's what I did. That was my life after school. My mom was a dancer too, so it kind of made sense that I fell right into it. And basically we thought that's what I was going to do. And so I followed that career path for quite some years, but then ended up choosing medicine. And so my parents didn't really see me as a doctor, I think, until I was in my teens and like in early college years, because I was really good at biology and I really liked it, which surprised me. And I think surprised them a little bit too, because it was just, it's a totally new subject. It's not like, you do math, you do English, all your years in training, and biology comes along is totally different. And I really liked it. And so I think they kind of realized maybe this is something she could do if she didn't want to dance and sing for the rest of her life.
Yeah. What's your favorite Puerto Rican food? We're going to come back to that one too.
No. I would have to. Okay, I'd have to say like Christmas plate. So it's like, the usual.
That's cheating. That's like 8.
No, I know it's cheating, but pernil and the chicharrón. Oh my God, if you give me chicharrón, I'm like, you need to pull it away from me because I will eat that whole thing.
It's like 8 items on the Christmas.
I know. And arroz con gandules is my favorite.
All right, fine. It's fine.
Pasteles. I love pasteles.
We know what's on there. None of it is good for the arteries, but it's delicious. Okay. Do you have a regret in terms of something that you really miss of your prior career singing and dancing? There's something that isn't fulfilled by what you do now that was then.
Oh, that's a hard question. I mean, yes, there are things that I miss about it a lot. I miss being on stage. Just not because there's an audience, but the element of performance and being able to express my emotions through my body or my voice. I think, in medicine, we have a little sing and dance act a little bit, every time all day long, where we kind of introduce ourselves and we talk to patients and we give our diagnosis and we explain it a certain way. And so we have this kind of way of operating. A rhythm that can be somewhat similar in that sense that, you're trying to give information the best way and you want it to be received in the best way. But yeah, singing and dancing for me is something that I do miss, and it works in its way into my life somehow. And I think it will work its way back.
Soul is singing and dancing. Everybody needs medicine for the soul,
Exactly.
What was your favorite toy growing up?
Favorite toy?
Is there one toy that was like you had to carry it everywhere? Or
yeah, I mean, I was a big stuffed animal and doll, person. So I had a Michael Jackson doll that was like my favorite.
Where I'm going with this and where I'm inserting these fun questions is that I want to get to know what's common in personalities that healthcare attracts, if we all answer to similar things. So, I never do anything without data collecting, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what I'm doing here. How important is your relationship with your medical assistant when you deliver your care?
Very important. I think I was thinking about this actually before we started. I feel like some physicians don't find it that important or put a lot of importance on it. I think that's a personal approach. I think there are certain people who work a little bit more completely individualized, but I am not like that. I'm a very team person, and it's probably because I grew up dancing where you're always dancing with other people and keeping a watchful eye and use other people's cues. So for me, I think the medical assistant relationship is just super important. I need someone who kind of can predict what I'm going to say, understands when I say I need this, that, and in this order, understands that when I give her a certain look, it means I need you to do this or that, or I need you right now,
or I need a yeah.
Or this other thing is really bothering me and I need you to try to your best to deflect that because I can't focus on this other thing. So yeah, someone who, I don't want her to read my mind because that's impossible, but to the best of our ability, if we can have a really great rhythm where we understand each other. And also that I understand when she needs something from me, or she's confused, or she needs clarification, or she just went into a patient room and she comes back and gives me a look that I'm like, what's going on? What happened? Like, what do I need to do, to help whatever's going on right now? So I think it goes both ways.
Well, favorite hobby sort of is covered for you. I'm going to skip that one. Did you consider switching careers because of our experience in 2020 with COVID?
No.
Okay. That took 2 seconds. That didn't even take it. How
Yeah.
No,
No, I felt like I was in the right place. I felt like this is so confusing, and my patients and their families, they're largely fairly low, low education levels. So I was like, the poor things, they need me right now because they know that I can speak their language literally and can understand what information they're probably getting. And
Yeah.
I'm going to have to demystify a lot of things right now. And that's still what I do.
Yeah. You're being a woman, you being relatively young for a career in medicine versus you being Latina. Do any of those, do you think, have any bearing in how others perceive you in the field? Or do they not have any bearing? And if so, which one in particular, if you struggle with any, do you struggle with?
Yes, and yes, and yes. I think I'm fortunate that I'm in a field in pediatrics where there are a lot of women. So it's not so much within my own kind of specialty where I may sense that. It's when I step out, when I go to a larger community of medical providers or healthcare providers, depending on where that community is and what it's based on. It, it sometimes I don't know if it comes from me, it's my own thing.
Yeah.
Or it is coming from the outs, from the externally towards me. But yeah, I think being a woman is perceived one way. I think being a Latina, especially a New Yorican, I feel like if I had an accent and I said I was from Colombia or another country, Venezuela, or, I feel it would be received differently. But being a New Yorican and, I don't have an accent. And so it confuses some people. But yeah, I'm going to leave that. I'm just going to stop right there before I
have
get
a whole show. Probably have a show because I'm going to push it.
Yeah, well, I think we need a show.
What does balance mean to you? I know it's one of your favorite words.
What is what?
Balance is one of your favorite words. And I want to know, what is your definition of balance?
I think balance is something that we can try to achieve daily, but it's hard. If you can achieve it over a couple of few days in a week's time, basically, I think where you're able to function effectively, purposefully, and without feeling like your battery is completely drained at work and also in your personal life. So if feeling like you're literally dragging yourself to work, you're not balanced. And if you feel like you're dragging yourself out to dinner, or you're dragging yourself out to do whatever social thing that may come up, or to have a conversation with a friend feels like, oh my God, I just can't do this, I'm so tired, is a cue that things might be a little off.
Yeah. In the interest of time, I just looked up. I'm going to stop there, but I have a feeling that this kind of conversation we're probably going to have again, even maybe perhaps with the same people. I think there will be conversation starters from this. Like, I have 5 more questions that weren't on the on what you just said. So instead of having it sort of in an interview fashion, maybe part 3 will be discussional, all of us, just sort of about things. So we'll set the stage today. See, these ideas come as we go. Yeah. So I'm going to take the Oprah mic off. I'm going to hand it to you.
All right.
Try not to be so hard on me. All right.
All right. So I'm going to start with the same one that you gave me, because I think that's a good intro. Where are you from?
I'm from New York. And I am from strong Puerto Rican roots. But I am pretty much a mixture of my mom and my dad. And my dad is very much a New Yorker at heart. And my mom is very, very much proud to be from Puerto Rico and Bayamón. So I would say I'm from New York, and very quickly I have to put in from Puerto Rican roots.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So do you feel... Why am I nervous? You're nervous? How do you feel your New Yorican roots, Puerto Rican roots and New Yorkerness contributed to your becoming a doctor?
I'm tough as they come. And I'm not just saying that that's not a physical thing, it's a mental thing for me. The neighborhood I grew up in, the stats at that time, you just didn't say you were going to become a doctor and not get sort of the, yeah, okay.
Mm-hmm.
That was the sort of perception for somebody from that neighborhood saying that's what they wanted to be. So from like a very young age, I had to be my biggest believer. And that's a New York, to me, a New York mentality, a go-getter, like if you tell me I can't do it, then now I have to do it twice and take a picture, that kind of personality, I think, has a lot to do with being from New York. And it has a lot to do with being from the Bronx. When you are presented with a bad circumstance in life, you can let it define you, or it can be the whole reason and the motivation why you want to get out. And that's what it did for me. And that's, I think, how it influences everything I do. Usually I try to take on things that are a little challenging, and most people tell me not to. And I have to feed my own motivation.
Okay. So, are there certain experiences in your life that you think taught you discipline, which is something that you probably, I'm going to assume, applied to your career as in medicine?
That's really interesting. That word discipline has been coming up in my life a lot. And yes, I think that what taught me the most discipline was a hobby I had growing up, which was martial arts. There's a lot of mental meditation and mind manipulation over anger and over emotions that people don't know is a part of martial arts, and it's a part of sort of being able to train the mind. And I think that I started that really young. I was like 5 or 6. So it was a way to train myself to be outside of my current circumstance, by meditation and thought and control of mind. And I've come up with that a lot lately in my adult life, just sort of being able to envision something occurring, and having the discipline of being involved in extracurriculars as a child and balancing it all has surfaced right up as an adult.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. And then what do you think about, um, are there things that you learned, like you mentioned meditation, are there things that you do now, or hobbies that you do now that allow you to kind of separate from your stressful career?
I'm struggling with that. I have hobbies that I'm not nurturing enough to provide the balance. So art does that a little bit for me. Music does that a lot for me. And I do engage a lot in music. But I think I need more of it. I think that my balance overall has been at my career.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I'm working on it. But art, music, dancing, martial arts if I get the chance. Yeah.
Did you always think you were going to be a doctor, or was there anything else you considered?
Not a thing. Not I think I was 5 when I said I'm going to be a doctor, and got that what look from my humble family, and I really never wavered, and it was like the second thing after I talked about myself. So it's always really been a part of what I wanted to do and how I think I can best contribute to the world.
And how do you feel about being a Latina woman in medicine? I mean, obviously we won't get into the depths of it because it's a big topic, but being, with your upbringing, and your background and your own challenges, how do you feel that affects you now?
Now it affects me a little less. I think that I have enough accomplished that I can handle the ignorance better, for lack of a better word, or maybe that's the best word to describe it. There are some people who have a certain vision of who a physician is, or maybe even a physician in leadership, or a physician in administration, in administrative in academia. And that's not normally a New Yorican or a Latina that's on the younger side that is very outspoken. I think I come across as very strong minded, and strong minded women who are minority or Latina can sometimes be misrepresented as passion over intellect. And so that's the part that I struggle with. No, my passion is my intellect. It
Mhm.
doesn't mean that passion takes over and I don't have an intellect. I am passionate. I happen to be Latina and I happen to want to make some changes happen. It might sometimes, I think, be hard to take from me, for them, not for me.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Okay. So, and then just so that we can tie it into our next topic, how about your medical assistant relationship and who you are? You know, this personality that we've touched on a little bit, the things that make you you. Um, how does that affect your day-to-day interaction with your team?
So I'm not everyone's cup of tea. I'll be the first to say it. And it has to do with what the standards that I want for my patients.
Mhm.
Okay. And sometimes, not sometimes, I've always had to work within the structure of a bigger administration.
Mhm.
So when I have a wall up with administration, I can now say that's probably what's led me to have switched jobs so much, because I absolutely feel like I need to know their side too. I need to have that communication because that's part of the patient experience. When I do order something, they make sure it happens, right? So
Yeah.
why talk to them and let them know why it's important that it happens. With my medical assistant, it took a while for her to be found. Let's put it that way. It took a little bit for her to be found. And that is because I think that, again, I don't like not having a very trusting, transparent relationship, much like yourself. And that's a choice I make. I want to be able to have that sort of nonverbal language that she understands me. And when I'm having a bad day, she doesn't ask, but she just knows, you know? So she might work a little different. And this is my first experience with administration who has an ear and a heart and wants to make things work in a collaborative fashion, and a medical assistant that I am speaking of in this manner in such a short amount of time. I'm going to ask her to clarify, but I know we haven't been working a long time. So I know that dynamic is natural.
Mhm.
And that would be Cheyenne. And Daphne is the administrative head of our practice.
All right. Well, I think we should meet them. Introduce them.
I will. It's up to you. It doesn't really
Yeah,
matter. I was going to interview Daphne and have you interview Cheyenne. Does that make sense?
that's fine. Yeah. So I will bring Daphne on
Oh,
first, right?
yes.
All
Let
right.
me- Is
Hi.
hello. I think
I think she. I got you. Yes. How are you?
all
All
right.
right.
Good.
Good.
Welcome.
Welcome.
What are
Thank you. Thank you. It's a pleasure. Thank you.
How is
How is my what?
your
Your
Saturday?
Saturday? My Saturday?
Yeah.
Yeah. I have contractors here. They're doing my deck, dog
Busy,
grooming, housework. You know, typical housework, wifely duties. So yeah, it's hectic, but it's good.
good.
Good. I
Excited I am
excited I am
when
when
Lizzie
Letty
just left.
just left. There you go.
Because you
Because you
two,
two
and
and
I'd
I
rather
rather
for people that
people
are
that are
for that
for
back,
that
my my up
my
here.
up here.
And I
And I
think
think
what that
what
means.
that means.
Both of
Both
you
of you
a lot
a lot.
today.
A
One of
one
you
of you
and the
and
other
the other
my
my
both
both
that
that
you
you
instead of giving
instead of giving
production on what
production on
I want
I
people
want you
to cover
to
what
cover what
okay, but
okay, but
I'm gonna say
I'm gonna say
that
that
you
you
are
are
very involved
very involved
in the
in the
administrative
administrative
of our
of our
now.
yes. Now
I'll
I'll
start
start
okay, where
where and then you broke up a second. We're having a little.
I think
I think we're having.
let me see if we are
Let me
on
see if we are on.
Hmm.
Hmm.
we are yes,
Yes. Echo. right? Are we getting an echo?
Yeah, I only hear
it from
You hear it
you
from
hear
who?
it from who?
from your side.
From
the
your
echo.
side, the echo.
Okay.
Oh.
Maybe it's me.
Maybe it's me.
There it is.
There it is.
Do you hear it
Do you
with
hear it with you?
On and off.
Trying to
Trying to
see.
see.
I'm
I'm
gonna
gonna read.
I can hear Letty, not you. There you go. Because I can hear you, Letty.
You hear me?
You hear me?
Yes.
But no echo?
But no echo?
No echo, but she's chopped off.
Okay.
She comes in and out.
Okay.
Okay.
Let's.
I
I
think
think
she's gonna try to
show up. Hello?
Hello?
Hello.
Hello?
There you go.
Am I clear?
Am I clear?
There you go. Yes.
Okay, good.
Okay, good.
Okay.
All right. So
All right,
we
so
will
we
start,
will start,
Daphne.
Daphne.
Simply, where are
Where
you?
are you from?
Central America. I'm from Honduras. Born and raised.
Three
Three
adjectives.
adjectives.
Right.
Right, Daphne.
Nurturing. Worker. And I love to balance.
Mhm.
And I know you ladies were speaking about that. That's top.
Why don't we
Why
go
don't we
go
balance?
balance me?
Giving 100% of me at work as an employee, as a mom, and as a wife, and as a pup mom.
What
What
your
your
parents
parents
want you to
want you to become? They wanted
something in
something in
person?
particular.
A doctor.
Mhm.
That's
What did
What
you
did you
about it?
about it?
I did growing up. Actually, I was surrounded by family members who were doctors, primary cares. We have dentists in the family. Absolutely, I grew up thinking, I will become a doctor. And as I grew older, then I maybe accounting.
Mhm.
Yeah, so it switched up a little bit.
Okay.
So yes,
Had jobs
Jobs out
before.
outside of healthcare,
Yes.
Yes.
I did. I worked for the Department of Transportation in high school.
Okay.
So I started off there. Like anybody else growing up, 16, when you get your working papers, supermarket. So always in retail or always customer service driven.
Okay.
Okay.
So it's a lot of retail as well.
What
has
if there
if
are
there are
none? What has been
what has
the
been the
biggest
biggest
or
or
struggle
struggle
or
or
con
con
being from
being from
and not
and
being?
not being
And what
and what
in what
in what you
Personally, for me, it's just a culture difference in how we treat people here is so much different. When I came, I felt people were very cold. Not that they're necessarily cold, it's a culture. You get up, they're very focused, goal oriented. I have to go to work, I have to leave work, I have to go home. Whereas coming from other countries, you're friendlier. Not to say people aren't friendly here, but they
warm?
are warm and they walk around aware of their surroundings and others' needs.
Yes.
Whereas here it's more robotic. I have to get on the train, I have to go to work, I have to go back home, I have to do this. It's like next mentality.
What do
but
how to
how to
carry?
carry
So if
you were
describe what you
what
do
you do
as a
as a job
caller.
What I would describe to what I do as a job now, there is what they want me to do and what the job calls for, but I always and make sure that I don't lose myself in the process. So for me, there's my job responsibility, but I also lead aloud with my heart. So they want me to do XYZ and I want to do XYZ, but also make sure that I have that person's best interest at heart and see to it that they get what they need, even if the expectation is not so high.
And for those
who
don't
don't
understand,
understand,
I
I speak
cynical
cynical
a lot.
a lot.
I'm
I'm clinical
person that's delivering
delivering the care,
nurse
nurse
practitioner.
practitioner.
What how would you
how would
describe
you describe
admin silent
violent
skills
skills
that
that
how would
how
you
would you
describe that?
describe that?
And you broke
What
up. You're breaking up a little bit. I'm sorry. How would I describe admin?
How would you what the
what the
admin
admin
side
is?
what
is
involvement
involvement
for the
for the
patient?
patient?
Making sure that the patient gets the best experience possible, making sure that they get taken care of in a timely manner, making sure that we understand their needs and that they are met first and foremost.
That through
that they
their
their
point.
point.
Exactly, making sure we meet their needs, we understand what they need, and their needs are met in a timely fashion. That's a huge struggle, though.
Where
are
Short-staffed right now.
and when I can answer
that
if the
the
company
company
answer
answer
that
that
I'm more
mean
healthcare
healthcare overall.
Yeah. It's really we're obviously struggling with staffing, and this is not just in the clinical end or as doctors' offices. This is a global situation at restaurants, anywhere else that you work in. So part of falling short, we didn't cause. COVID came about, and so a lot of single moms had to stay home and take care of their children, so that caused for being short-staffed. But I feel too where we fall short as people is not giving 100% or taking pride in what we were hired to do and taking care of the patient. Unfortunately, I find quite often that employees, some, not all, come in for just a paycheck. Okay, I'm going to go into work. I want to go by my responsibilities and leave. It's 5 o'clock. I got to go. And then you have the employee that will come in and greet you, make sure they are aware you are present, make sure they treat you the way you want to, make sure your needs are met and take care of you from beginning to end. So we fall short sometimes within ourselves.
how to know
that
between
to
those
those
higher
there's
there's
any
for
for
the
the red
that we
that we can
this is
this is
the
the one
above and
above
beyond
and beyond
part.
Unfortunately, a lot of times you can have somebody and interview them and they are the best interviews ever and you think we got a winner. And unfortunately, actions speak differently. So it's not really until they are on the job that they fall short and we realize, you know what I mean? And they're just not there. Their heart is not in the right place.
Gotcha.
Gotcha.
How
How important
relationship
this
Oh, it's the most important, one of the most important aspects of the job. If I don't know what your needs are, then I can't meet your needs for your patients and what they need. I can meet the needs of the staffing. So it's really a domino effect. Understanding what you need as a physician allows me to help the patient and make sure they get what they need, and also allows me to train the staff appropriately so that they know what to do for the patient and treat them correctly.
now I know that that's your belief. Practice is so important about
you.
in fact
When
what can
what
I
can I
do for job? Because
I
I have
never
because this
because
is
this is what
it may be
it
that
may be that
it isn't.
it isn't.
I have in
In
places
places
at
talk
the
the
administration
administration
usually
much
course.
course.
But where did
Where
you
did you
learn
learn
that?
that?
And
And for
go under
go
their-
under their
how
how
to
to
not compartment healthcare
delivery
clinical.
clinical.
I think it's really, a lot of it has to do with culture, being Latinas, having our family or my family raising me as their own child. My uncle was a father to me. I mean, they didn't see themselves as I'm their uncle. I cannot get involved in raising her or educating her or correcting her. So all of my uncles, aunts, uncles, cousins, if they were older than me, my grandmother, they were part of shaping me and molding me to becoming a good person and being generous and being attentive to people and being aware of people's needs. So really, it's for me, it was my family.
That's so
That's so
interesting
because
because I
I
always
always
best training
best
from
train
books. It comes way before you even open your first book.
books. It comes way before you even open your first book.
Right.
What is the worst part about your
What is the worst part about your
Not for higher ups, not understanding how we can improve our processes and protocols.
Mhm.
The fact that they are so busy in being doctors themselves or going about what they have to do on a daily basis to keep the company and making sure that other things are being done correctly. If they were only spend a day at the front desk or on the floor or just take the time to see how everything is working, they would be more trustful in when administration comes to them and brings a situation to, brings awareness to a situation in trying to correct it. They will be more open-minded in correcting it because they would understand. And also another challenge is employers should trust key employees. There should be certain people, they should realize they're loyal to me, they have my back, they have their, my best interest at heart. If they're telling me something, the fact that she's in an administrative role, she would not lead me wrong.
Mhm.
So that is a challenge, just to be trusted with the information I'm giving them and correcting it.
Get to know
get to know
the people
the
you
people you work
Correct. And
work
get to know your office and get to know your staff and get to know your protocols and processes and just be part of it, be part of it for one day and take a look at where we're lacking just so you can see what I'm bringing to the table, what I'm telling you there's an issue.
That's
That's
just
just
as I
as
think
I think
being able to
being
pick.
able to pick.
I am
I
gonna
am gonna
off the
up
book
the book
the time and
time and to
to get here.
here.
Invite you
Are
to
you
where we
know
just
where we just
us.
us?
Yes.
You-
Thank you.
Let the
You
All
all
right.
right.
Myra,
You're
you're being kind of
kind of
choppy.
choppy.
I'm hearing it
it
when I talk. Oh boy. It looks
It looks like
it's
it's still in
I
I don't know why.
but
But
try. And we'll bring
in
in Diane.
Diane.
All right. Hi, Cheyenne. All right. Let's see if
Hello, everyone.
All right. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you also.
All right. Daphne, Myra, do you guys hear this okay? Yeah? Okay, great. All right. So, well, Cheyenne, so you are Myra's medical assistant at work. So I'm gonna start with a few questions to get to know you, and then I'm gonna talk about your work. So, the first thing I will ask, just to kind of get everyone established, where are you from?
Originally in the Bronx, New York.
All right. And do you feel that your upbringing has contributed to the way that you operate at your current job?
I'm sorry, repeat yourself.
Do you feel that your upbringing, or being from the Bronx, how that contributes to how you function at work and working with Myra?
Well, I see a lot of similar qualities that my mom has and that Dr. Rodriguez has. So she's definitely a go-getter, and she likes to have complete tasks and make sure that everyone is on the same page. And so my mother, growing up, there's a total of 4 of us. children, so she definitely had to make sure that a lot of things were taken care of and done properly. And also, my mother always was taking care of someone else's children. So there was also a full house with that. So it definitely had to be structured and order. So I definitely appreciate that with Dr. Rodriguez.
Makes sense. And then did you always think that you were going to go into the healthcare field? And you're still young, but so I don't know if this is if is healthcare something that you think you want to continue to pursue? Is this something you just fell into?
So growing up, my brother and myself, we were put into dancing classes. So I did that for a while. My brother stopped. But for me, dancing was definitely a passion of mine. I was in quite a few dance companies, like Alvin Ailey, Dance Theater of Harlem. So then eventually my mom was like, okay, do you want to do this dancing thing or do you want to do nursing? And she was really pushing toward the nursing aspect. So I leaned toward nursing. And when I moved upstate, I my high school, it was vocational high school also. So that's when I leaned toward doing getting my CNA license in the beginning, and then which opened my eyes into other aspects of the healthcare field. So yes, I do enjoy the healthcare field, and I definitely would like to become a nurse one day.
Great. Well, that's interesting. We have some similarities, so not surprised that you and Myra get along.
Makes sense now, yeah.
Yep. And then being that we have this pandemic, that we're amidst all of this, how did that contribute to your, ability to pursue working? Did it distract you or deter you?
It definitely did not deter me from wanting to pursue my medical career. It made me want to work harder. It definitely intrigued me because this virus is something that many people have a lot of questions and concerns, and a lot of people are dying, and there really isn't a complete hold on why this virus came about. And so it just made me work harder and dive more into the healthcare field.
Okay. And then how do you think, Myra and I touched on this topic about being women, being minorities. How do you think that influences your career choice, how you're perceived? And again, I'm sure we could talk about that in length, but but in general, do you think it contributes, or what are your thoughts?
Yes, it does contribute. It definitely shows Black and brown girls that yes, you can achieve goals, contrary to what others may say. And so it definitely pushes me to work harder in the field that I am, so that you can say, okay, all right, she can do it, I can do it too.
It's true. Great. Yeah, I mean, I think just looking at this screen, the four of us, this is not when, you Google healthcare career, right? Women in healthcare. This is unfortunately probably not what you're going to Google unless you get a little bit more specific, which, in your search. But I'm glad to see, see us all on the screen together. It's very motivating and hopefully inspiring to others. And do you think that, Cheyenne, I think, do you think that, well, I guess my question is, branching off of that, working with Dr. Rodriguez, working with Myra, is that something new for you? Have you often worked with people of color, or in healthcare specifically, other doctors, or how is that any change for you, or is that pretty much the norm?
I have, prior to working with Dr. Rodriguez and Northern Medical Group, I was working for another group, another doctor who was of color and who was bilingual. So he started his own practice, which was very nice. And it was a pediatric office he started. Yes, it was very nice. And it was very inspiring also.
Well, good. I'm glad that that's positive, and that's reinforcing to know that it's not as unusual as it used to be. So we're moving in the right direction.
Hear me?
What'd you say, Myra? Sorry.
I think it's really interesting that both her answers about how color and minority and all that were positive, actually, in answers. So maybe, just maybe, generationally, we might be doing something right.
Yeah, I agree. It sounds like things are moving in the right direction, and hopefully we, this won't be so unique, and it will just be normal.
Yes, it will be
Exactly.
out in the universe.
Absolutely.
But you guys, both of you, I want to thank you for taking up your time to chat. And I think this really just set the stage for who we are. And I think it would be nice to have y'all back at some point to simply have an open conversation where we pose situations and see if we can together contribute to how to best manage them and learn from each other. I think I chose medicine. A lot of people choose healthcare because it changes all the time. So you're always a student of more. And I like that. So I have many more questions to pick on. And I have to be the one interviewing Cheyenne next because I realize I put myself in a dangerous situation with Letty being able to ask Cheyenne for dirt. So next time we have to swap that. Letty, any last words?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, I hope everybody enjoyed getting to know us a little bit, our personalities and kind of what makes us tick. And as they continue to watch our shows, that will naturally come out, and hopefully inviting people like Daphne and Cheyenne to discuss not only who they are and what makes them tick, but also, focusing on the behind the scenes and how that all works together. And I think we touched on it, but being specifically Latina women in medicine, and also other minorities in medicine, people of color, and even other professions, they face similar challenges that we face. So I think that's definitely something that we can bring back in a larger topic, and just putting it out there to the people who are watching and listening. You can message us and email us, or whatever. Let us know what topics you think you want to hear from us. What things that you're interested in that you maybe feel is lacking in your knowledge of what it's like to be an actual practicing doctor. So feel free to message us any of those things, and we can turn them into future episodes. But thank you to Cheyenne and Daphne for joining us, and I hope you come back again later.
Yes, thank you all.
Oh,
All right.
Bye.
bye.
Bye.